list of words that you've probably heard at some point this year in professional development or in a graduate program or any type of professional learning that you've been doing. So the first thing you're going to do is take these and divide them up into 2 to 4 groups, however many groups fit with your brain. So you put them in 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, and then on the table, label with the expo marker. Put a label on those groups. Why did you put these together? Why did you put these together? And it will erase, so don't worry about it. So take a couple minutes, work with your partner, and do that. You had strategies or planning, strategies or program. Okay, with AVID literacy collaboration. Or you had a tripod.
We do. We have a triangle/tripod where we have a group of testing and review, which is your formative, summative, data analysis, your intervention, and your validity. Then you have your planning of your standards, your instructional plan, your collaboration, and your targets. And then that support comes through the consistency, AVID, and literacy strategies.
In order to pull together the concept of professional development is so that you understand whenever I think about professional development or I think about my classroom, either way, I use those 4 questions that are on our PLC agenda. So for me, I think about first what I want students to learn, which are the priority standards, the learning targets, literacy of whatever subject or whatever I'm trying to teach, and then that develops my instructional plan. And from that instructional plan, a piece would be, well, how will I know if they've hit these? It'll be my formative, summative assessments, data analysis, consistency, and validity. And then what will I do if they don't get it? That's where I tend to tap into to intervene AVID strategies or other strategies that would work for students that are struggling. And then for me, I put collaboration, the whole thing is collaborative, but I put it with what do I do when they get it, because that's my weakness. I'm very good at remediation, I'm good at the instructional plan, but I struggle with enriching students who are already there when they're in a class with students who don't get it. I struggle with having it not just be extra work or not, and trying to put them into groups or places where they can, so that's, I see my collaborative team and their expertise, or right now, with 9th grade lit, we split up our classes and we move the higher kids into one class and the lower kids into another so that we can teach in that way. So the next thing we're going to do is reading with a purpose. So you have an article that you picked up when you came in, and it's called The Forgetting Curve. So as you are reading, the goal for you is to identify how they are telling us to have students study smarter, not harder. So if you'll take a minute, you can write on these, read, and figure out how to tell students what's the method to have them study smarter, not harder.
Because you can't learn everything in one night anyway, because you read it, just like you text. It's the same thing. You don't learn everybody. You didn't know how to text one day, you just played with it, kept doing it. You didn't know the words of those songs, and they know the words of the Dirty Version songs. So I didn't learn it. So it's the same thing.
Good, thank you. This group, one idea out of your group.
I think we were talking about providing that time to rep it, but to also go back and check the rep. It doesn't matter if you're doing it, if you're not doing it right.
That's true.
And so giving them time to either share with each other or correct themselves or find a way to adjust.
Yes, very good. So building that in. Okay. This group.
So what we all came up with is, there's always idle time. You're waiting for someone to pick you up, or you're on the bus. And I tell my kids, because I teach Spanish, so a lot of vocabulary. Practice on the bus. The person next to you, almost at least said, constant repetition, because, a lot of these kids, they have jobs after school, or they have, sport to play, or they have to take care of little ones. So if you're constantly on top of it, you're constantly repeating it, taking advantage of that idle time in between being picked up or waiting for the bus or on the bus, then that helps tremendously.
It does. That's a good point. And when you show them, it just takes 10 minutes. You don't need 5 hours.
Exactly.
This 9th graders look at this and go, whoa, I can do that. Okay, this group.
I feel like we touched on everything that we already said.
Okay.
I do, my bell work is normally kind of like the refresher for the day before. So that, it's just those few moments, and then I can catch anybody who's like, I don't get it.
Mr. Lodge, can I say, and I think the way we teach has to reflect the way we want them to study. So you can't like say go home and study and not do the same thing in class. Like at the end of the day, I gotta wrap up. And the next day I come, I gotta go back to what I did yesterday. I'm showing you repetition. And then you do it, because a lot of them say, I don't know how to study. Well, where do they learn how to study? And then, or we'll say stuff like, well, they don't meet the prerequisite. Well, scrap a prerequisite. Show them how to do it. You're the master, show them how to do it. So rep it in class, go back home.
Well, and that's kind of exactly where we're going with this last little piece for today with the concept map. Do you want to, what do we do with this information with them?
So, when you do it,
We have a happy one.
is this me? Well, it's funny you say that, because the other day she walked in and we were, collaborating about this, and I said, you can do a concept map or you can do a chart. It's up to you. And it was interesting to walk around that class and see how most of them did a chart, not a concept map, which I found really interesting, because usually there's a mix, but it just gives you insight into how people think, right? Like, they don't think like this. So most of them wanted a linear, very much a comparison contrast in that way. But this is one tool to use, especially if you like this. So this is my concept map of the article of how I would use this for my students. So when I'm planning, in order for it to be smarter, not harder, I would do guided practice, 10 minutes after I introduce something, and then the next day, maybe it's ticket in the door, an independent activity they did at home, and then we share it and share it out. A think, pair, share, a formative assessment, anything. So like you said, I can catch the kids who didn't get it the night before in their practice, or catch the kids who are still struggling. And when she came in, the student said, oh, this is what we did yesterday. Yes, it is. Look at that. Look at that. It is what we did yesterday. Remember that? There's a reason. And then 7 days later, in language arts, it's a little different. We don't have strict units. We have longer units. So 7 days later might just be a formative assessment before the summative, and the summative may come way later. But for a lot of courses, I know the units are about every 5 to 10 days. So you have stricter summative assessments that are coming, and you follow that up. So what we would like you to do for the work session today is, if you have a collaborative team member, someone that can help you, then discuss a concept, idea, or term that your students struggle to remember. It might be one you taught today, one you're going to teach tomorrow, and then create a concept map or other plan, whichever way works best for you, of using the 10-24/7 model. So how will you implement this in your class and have the students think about their learning? So what will you do? It may be something you already did today and yesterday. It may be something that you haven't implemented this. So hopefully today you have each one of these activities that you can take away and use in your classroom. Would love, love, love if you give us feedback about how you're doing that. Or if you have like another one that you've used before. They work at all levels. And also, don't hesitate to offer feedback about professional development, areas you need it in, areas you would prefer, or structure of the professional development that works for you and doesn't. So please, don't hesitate. Send it to me. I'll take it to the powers that be, minus your name, and then we will go from there. So thank you all so much for your...
Thank you very much.